Thank you, listeners, for joining us. It is time for Elko Live today, and our in-studio guest is going to help us usher in the Elko County school year and a fall season, and of course the month of September with a nationwide observance of Fostering Hope, Health, and Healing Suicide Awareness and Prevention. Welcome back, Wendy, Charlebois. It's always wonderful to see you, and thank you for coming in and talking about this important issue today.
Well, thanks for having me again. I like coming on the show and talking about this topic in particular, but I've talked about a lot of different topics over the years, and so this is, of course, as you know, it's very near and dear to my heart, and so I just want people I want to get the word out about suicide prevention, about our walk, and about all of the exciting things that have been going on, not only in the school district, but also just in our Elko community, in our Elko County community, because I do represent Zero Suicides Elko County, and so there have been a lot of exciting things that have happened in the last, in the last 6 months or so.
Exactly. I mean, you had an incredible meeting when you brought in Haley DeGreve and some others. There was a drumming circle, things at Great Basin College. And these were all just sort of touchstones for people. And now I don't know how else to say this. So I'll just say I think that there's finally some sort of tenderness about this and understanding, and people that are just willing to just sit down, listen, and then do the right thing. Because it's been very frustrating for the last few years.
Yes, it has. And, it's not a subject that people like to talk about. It's not an easy subject to talk about. But you know what's weird? It's not weird, but what I always find interesting is that when we have an event, say like we have a table at National Night Out or, some other event like that, there are so many people that come up to the table, and it's like they kind of walk by and they look at what what our information that we have set out, and they kind of walk by and then they come back and then they'll say, well, my father killed himself, or I had a brother that killed himself when he was in high school, and then they start talking, and the pain is still there, even though it happened maybe a long time ago. But so many people have been affected by this. They say for every suicide there are about 40 or 50 people that are affected by it, whether it's friends, immediate family, co-workers. So most of us have had some kind of association with suicide.
Even during last night's city council meeting, Wendy, Mayor Reese Keener alluded to that when he was reading the proclamation. And we know that Lynette Vega, who is president of Zero Suicides, was there to accept that proclamation along with Carol. And the mayor said, I had a coworker or a colleague, someone that I talked to at least once a month in Las Vegas. And he described him. He said he was a nice single man. We didn't think anything was wrong. And suddenly he died by suicide. Mm-hmm. Right. So you're right. The circle of people that are impacted by this. The thing I guess that does make it not easier to talk about, but more urgent, is that people like you and Lynette and Stormy and all the other people, Lori, people who are working so fervently behind the scenes, you've all lost loved ones. And I like to talk about Luke because I know you love to talk about Luke. So
yeah. I do.
We're here because you lost Luke.
Right. I lost Luke. It'll be 5 years on September 30th that he died by suicide. And, he had a lot of challenges, mental health challenges, including substance abuse. He had mental health challenges and then started self-medicating, and then, he died by suicide. And, I'm not the same person I used to be. My whole family has been affected by it. He has a 10-year-old daughter now who has, she doesn't remember him all that much anymore, which makes me really sad. But I think in the future, this is all going to come back to her, you know, and I worry about that. And I just miss him every day. That's the big thing. I miss him every day.
Yes, you do. And that's why we are working every day in this community. We're making small ripples that hopefully will turn into large waves, and people will come together over this issue in particular. I'm just looking at a report from the Associated Press just out. About 49,500 people took their own lives last year in the country. That is the highest number ever, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. They've not yet calculated a suicide rate for the year, but suicides are more common in the U.S. than at any time since the dawn of World War II. And Lynette said at last night's council meeting that we have lost 11 Elko area people to suicide since January.
Right. Yeah, it's and I think there are a lot of reasons why people die by suicide. You know, some of them are very private. Some of them are kind of more global. I mean, worry about the future, worry about climate change, or the economy. You know, poverty. Really, lots. People who live in poverty are more likely to die by suicide than people who have a comfortable standard of living. And we're seeing more and more people becoming homeless. We were just talking about that, and how expensive things have gotten. And so, and you know, mental health issues, things like anxiety, depression, different psychiatric diagnoses such as bipolar disorder or schizophrenia. All of those things contribute to, increase the risk that people are going to die by suicide. And so there are so many things in a community that can help prevent that. And that's what our group, Zero Suicide, is all about. It's all about finding those, helping people make those connections, because that is the one thing that we know can help people, can prevent people from dying by suicide, is making those important connections. That goes from kids in school all the way up to people in my age group, which is pretty old. We want to help people find those connections, and so that's what we try to do, is to look for those connections.
And we have a long list of those connections. In fact, we'll do a deep dive now, because we want people to have hope rather than feel hopeless, because that's what's been happening. We've sort of been mired in this, but now we do see the light. We actually see some light, some lightness, some support coming through. The Hope Squad, did you want to mention that, since we're going back to school? I know that Superintendent C.J. Anderson was very excited. He got some local sponsors, and they had an inspirational, motivational speaker on Monday for all the faculty, and I think from some students.
Yeah, and I was sorry I missed that. I had to go to Salt Lake, but first of all, the school district is really getting on board with looking for ways to encourage good mental health, and looking for ways to help kids cope. They now have more social workers in the school, which that's a big thing for me, because social workers can really, really help kids, and not only the kids but the families too. That's what social workers are good at, or helping families find resources. And sometimes that's the difference between a healthy family and a family that is really struggling, are just finding resources. So I hope to see more and more social workers in the schools. Our school resource officers, Anna
Bribiesca, she was just here Monday.
Oh, good. Well,
yes,
good. She's great.
fantastic.
She also not only is a police officer, she is also a social worker now with her master's degree. And so, that is just, that's
Talk about
really
dedication.
Cool. I know.
Yeah.
I know. And she's a good student too. She used to be mine. So, the school district has really gotten on board with this, and one of the things that they've I'm not part of the Hope Squad, but I'll tell you a little bit about it. It's really a peer-to-peer program to help kids, and I've got a little blurb here on my phone that I want to.
Oh, good, because we know that this was in the works, and students initiated this. They grabbed hold of it. They had their own event last year, and they have an exceptional advisor who also guided and lifted their intentions, but at the same time, kept them within the parameters, and it was just a fantastic event.
Right, and people have gotten training. I want to make a really big shout out to the Elko Federal Credit Union. They have taken us on, our group, Zero Suicide Elko County. They have helped fund resources for Hope Squad for our walk. They helped, and I'll get back to that, but excuse me, all the things that they've done.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you a break to take your, you take a little sip. No worries. They've partnered with us to really help us with all of the things that we want to do. And I'll talk more about that, but I'll tell you about the Hope Squad because that's really exciting because that's going to, I think that... that's student-driven, as you said. It's peer-to-peer.
Yeah, it's peer-to-peer. They have advisors that I don't know whether they have been trained. I'm pretty sure they've already been trained. They've already taken the training, but basically, Hope Squads are the eyes and ears of your school. They are comprised of students who are trained to watch for at-risk students, provide friendship, identify warning signs, and seek help from adults. Hope for, and this was a Utah program, works with school advisors to train students who have been identified by their classmates as trustworthy peers to serve as Hope Squad members. Through evidence-based training modules, Hope Squad members are empowered to seek help and save a life. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty awesome responsibility for the kids that are chosen. And then it goes on to say, Hope Squad members are not taught to act as counselors, but rather are educated on how to recognize signs of suicide contemplation and how to properly and respectfully report this to an adult. Once invited to be a Hope Squad, I don't know, this phone's going crazy. Hope Squad members, students who have to be willing to go through the training and get permission from their parents. And after completing the training, Hope Squad members host a parents' night where they teach their parents about Hope Squad. And so that we know that oftentimes young people don't like to talk to adults about their problems. They'd like to talk to their friend or somebody at school, that they hang out with. And so that's what will hopefully make Hope Squad very effective within our schools. And so we're real excited about that. And ever since last February when the high school, the Elko High School did their mental health week, which was all student driven, that was a really big success. They had a lot of parents that attended and asked questions, really important questions. So that's just one thing that we've, our group has really pushed for. And I think it's taken some real tragedies to get us to this point. And that's unfortunate, but we're here now. And so I'm really happy about that. Also, another thing that has started at LifeQuest, which is a counseling agency here in Elko, there is a survivors of suicide attempts group. We know that there are people in this community that have tried to die by suicide, and unfortunately, they weren't able to complete suicide. And so there is a group now up at LifeQuest. It meets the second Saturday of each month, and there is a group for adults 18 and over, and there is hopefully going to be a group for teens 12 to 17. They have to have parental consent. All of these people have to be in counseling. They have to have their own private therapist. This is a support group. This is not a therapy group, but it's something, those kind of groups usually are, can work miracles. And, if you want information about it, you can contact Cindy Arnett at LifeQuest, and her number is 775-927-0233. And there's, it's all evidence-based information. So that's another thing that is going in our community. Also, we had our big event in April where we had Haley DeGrieve come from Minnesota and she talked about community connections, how we can foster that. And that was a big success. We started drumming circle, and our drum circle, I went to it last Friday. Oh my God, it was I got goosebumps, and Gail Rappa calls them truth bumps, because we had some people who did some singing in their own Native American language, and it was just beautiful. I had asked that they dedicate one of their drum circle singing things to the people of Maui, because my grandmothers were Hawaiian. Yeah. And my great grandmother and my great great grandmother, and way back. So yeah, so they did that, and it was beautiful. And again, this drum circle that meets it's the third Friday of every month at the college. It's in the solarium usually, because it's been so hot, or if it's raining, it'll be there too. That was a great way to make connections. It's a real stress reliever too. We have a lot of fun. So that's something that people can participate in and find a new connection. Also, we're having our walk that we have every year. It's on September 9th. And registration starts at 8:15, and it starts in the same place every year. It's over in the city park, the main city park, over by the Hospice Rose Garden. And there is a $20 registration fee. You get you can get a T-shirt, you can get honor beads, tokens, and it's just a 5K walk. We do a ceremony at the beginning, and this year we're going to have one of our drummers from our drum circle come and sing for us, and at the beginning. So that's something. One of the greatest things that's happened is that we now have trainers. Lynette Vega and I went to a 5-day intensive training on how to teach the assist model of suicide prevention. We have never had teachers in northeastern Nevada, and so now we are able to do that. Plus, we became Safe Talk trainers, and a lot of training in the last few weeks, but that is something that the credit union has really helped us out with, is to help pay for our meals and things like that, so that we could go. And the Office of Suicide Prevention put it on. It was the training itself was actually free, because they got a big grant. It actually came from. It was to focus on farmers and ranchers. They got a grant to work on suicide prevention with that group, because, in fact, it was just on NPR today about farmers and ranchers and the stresses that they are under with inflation and droughts and flooding. So now we have trainers, and people are already asked groups, and this is what is so exciting. Groups have already asked us When can you do a training for us? And the director or the president of the credit union, his name's Todd. I can't think of his last name right off the
Is it
top.
Sorensen?
Yeah, I think it is. He went to our Safe Talk training after he went to the event in April. And now we've partnered with him.
And Jan Baum talked about this, our city manager. She also said during city council, she gave a plug last night and said, hey, it's 3.5 hours of your life, and it can actually save someone else's life.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it was a lovely, lovely thing for her to say.
Yes.
And because again, it takes this kind of talk in the community. And it shows the power of community in healing and support, Wendy. But it's all about these conversations that we just need to have these commonplace conversations about talking about suicide.
Right. And that, and
mental health.
And mental health, yeah. That's, and I have this little handout here that, because we were talking about going back to school, and this is put out by the Hope Squad about communicating as a family when somebody is struggling. And they have these little lessons here, and they really encourage parents to talk about mental health. Make that part of your family conversation, not just when somebody is struggling, but they talk about that mental health is all about having balance in your life. And our kids get really overscheduled, don't they? I mean, they're going to this lesson and that practice and this sport and that, and we all know that COVID really brought on a lot of concerns about children's mental health. Ask some of the people at the high school or in the middle schools here how many kids have sought help from a school counselor or one of the school social workers, and that's really, really important that kids are encouraged to do that. And they're not discouraged from talking about their challenges with someone that they trust. And that's what this handout from the Hope Squad is. It talks about finding balance and recognizing things and helping kids recognize things in their life that are putting them out of balance.
Right, because sometimes there could be an actual physical ailment. There could be an illness. There could be a deficiency.
That's right.
Something else could be underlying, right?
Exactly.
You don't want it to get to that point. The other thing, too, and Lieutenant Bribieska talked about this, or Sergeant. I keep promoting her. I keep promoting Anna. We should. And that's what I told her. I said, it's a premonition. But Sergeant Bribieska talked about this, too. The danger of social media, because you talked about actually overscheduling. Well, now we're actually seeing there's way too much screen time, and that's for kids of all ages. And actually, it has to start with parents, Wendy. You have to make a pact. You have to just say, put down the phone. But the kids aren't going to put down the phone if your face is in your phone all the time. And that's what they're watching, and that's what they're seeing. So instead of the screen time, make it the family, make it the face-to-face, let's talk about stuff time, right?
Right. And that is...
because that's eating away their mental health.
And I mean, their self-esteem, a lot of kids, their self-esteem really takes a hit on social media. I think we've all heard that people talk about this, that, when you had a problem with somebody at school, you could, you might, I don't condone fighting, but, you might get in a big fight and then it's over.
Yeah, you'd have a conflict.
You had a conflict,
face-to-face,
and the teacher took you aside and said, you do this, you do that, you're going to come out shaking hands. But now when kids go home, that just continues.
It's relentless. Yeah.
It is. It's relentless.
Right.
And, and parents have to really take this seriously. It is not something that we can just ignore because it's not going away. And young women are really targeted about the way they dress, about their weight. I mean, I'm not saying that young men aren't, but, appearance issues are so important to young girls. And these kinds of things just get hammered away at.
And they can't focus on studies.
Right.
I mean, obviously.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's...
So put down the phones.
Yeah, well, I know this sounds kind of... I'm not trying to make a joke about this, but when I get on my phone and start scrolling, my dog,
Oh, he
pushes the phone.
Good for your dog. Yes.
I know.
Yes. Pick up the ball, Mom. Take me outside and play.
That's right.
They know.
Yeah. And, your kids want that attention. And also in this article from the Hope Squad, it talks about destigmatizing when people are struggling, destigmatizing mental health issues, and talking to them about, well, what do you do when you're feeling anxious? Help me understand where that's coming from. What can we do? How can I help? Kids don't, of certain ages especially, don't like you to be in their face about it. But, just saying, I notice that you're just feeling kind of down. How can I help? Can you, if you don't want to talk to me, could you talk to someone about it?
Yeah.
And that's really, really important to teach kids, especially now. We have Fridays off now in Elko.
And that'll be a good time to focus on some of this intervention and Hope Squad and just getting in the cycle of being supported, because I understand there'll be tutoring on some campuses. They're still going to serve food, but it's not going to be in that structured environment,
right.
Obviously.
Right. And so this is a time, and we have to kind of prepare our kids to be, that's going to be a lot of free time for some kids. And we have to make sure that, we've got adequate childcare, so that kids feel safe, or that we've got to provide things for them to do on that Friday. Structure is a good thing for kids.
Mm-hmm. Organized activities.
Yeah.
We're talking with Wendy Charlebois from Zero Suicides, Elko County, and we've talked about a lot of grim statistics about the growth in suicide from middle-aged and elderly people. Older adults is a huge category right now. Obviously, we're very, very concerned about teen suicides, young adults in our community. We've had 11 suicide deaths locally since January, but there is optimism. There is the National Crisis Line that was launched a year ago. Anybody from anywhere in the U.S. can dial 988 with a goal to reach mental health specialists. We know they're still working out a few kinks, but from what I understood, Wendy, that it is working in Nevada. And these conversations and this growing awareness and the support that we're finding in schools, it is changing things, right? But we still have to take some individual responsibility. And I know this is something that Lynette and I have talked about, and this is a tough conversation to have in Elko County, but we're going to have it. And it's lethal means. Because the main driver, we have to caution you that suicide is very complicated, but the recent increases might be driven by a range of factors, higher rates of depression, as we talked about, limited mental health, but we have a growing availability of guns.
That's right.
This is not a Second Amendment conversation. This is about knowing what is in your house and knowing what the state of mind is of the people you love around you, and then just simply limiting their availability or access. Because if you don't, you and your family will regret it for the rest of your lives.
That's right. And I'm so glad that you brought this up, because one of the things that we talk about in the Safe Talk training and in the Assist training is that we have to ask the question. There is a myth that if you ask somebody if they're going to kill themselves, then it will plant the seed, and then they'll do it. And that's just not. There is no evidence to indicate that. So we have to ask, when we are concerned about someone, we have to ask the question, are you thinking about killing yourself, or are you thinking about dying by suicide? You're not thinking about suicide, are you? When we say that, they go, no, because I mean, there's a whole.
You're judging them.
If you take the Safe Talk training or the Assist training, you'll learn more about that. But anyway, we have to ask, do you have a plan? And if we find out that they have that they've been thinking about a gun, we've got to figure out a way to limit their access to those guns. Whether we call someone to go over and move the guns, or whether we, have to take some kind of legal measure. And I'm not clear about all of that, about what that all involves. But more men die by suicide with a gun than anything else.
Right.
So
that's just a fact.
It's just a fact.
We're not trying to offend anybody. It's just a fact.
It is. It's just an absolute fact. And we can't, if we know that someone is really struggling, and we've talked about some of the risk factors for suicide. If we notice that someone is depressed, they're not going to work, they're drinking too much, they've withdrawn from activities that they typically enjoy, they're angry, their hygiene goes down the tubes. Those are all pretty good indicators that something's going on. And, we all have some kind of an intuition, especially around our loved ones. If we're thinking that something's wrong, talk to somebody about it. Talk to your loved one about it. And if you know that your loved one is depressed, has, says things like, well, I'd be better off, everybody would be better off if I wasn't here, and they have a gun, you better do something about it. Because, we never think that that's going to happen. I mean, I don't think anybody who has had a loved one die by suicide thought it could happen to them. But it does. Absolutely. And I'm telling you, I'm here to tell you that it does.
Right, Wendy. Well, thank you for, we just have to lay it all out because, again, we're at the point where we don't have to tiptoe anymore. This is just, this is like anything else. And we have mobile crisis vans now that will come to your workplace, that will come to your house, that will come to your driveway, and they will do it discreetly, and they will talk to you and assist you either as a family or as an individual. And you have other types of support, as we said, calling 988. You can call, and we've got these little business cards, by the way. We have them at Elko Broadcasting Company. You can just come and pick up a handful and distribute them. But both sides are full of numbers of local resources, Wendy.
That's right. And that's what's really hopeful because, you mentioned the mobile crisis unit. We have a great, the person who's in charge of that for the whole state, she lives right here in Elko. Her name's Michelle Sandoval, and she's great.
She was fabulous at the panel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. She's absolutely wonderful, and she runs that whole program. And so, like, if you are having a problem with yourself or a family member, you can call the mobile crisis unit. And if you go on our website, our Facebook page, Zero Suicide Elko County, or our website, just Google Zero Suicide Elko County. We have all these numbers on there. Mm-hmm. And but like our mobile crisis unit, it's for kids 18 and under, and then if you call them, they will have somebody to talk to within 15 minutes.
Wow.
And then they will connect you up with, they do follow up with you. They'll find resources for you. You are not alone. I mean, you can call somebody in Nevada to help you with that. And then we also have the adult, the adult care team. I never can remember the name of that, but the adult care team, same thing. Mm-hmm. If you are an adult, you're having a problem, call them.
Right. And it doesn't have to be in crisis mode or a meltdown. I mean, it could be. These things are happening.
You define the crisis.
Exactly. But there is help now. And before, there was not help, or at least we weren't talking about it. And now as a community, we're making these connections.
That's right.
That's what Zero Suicides Elko County is all about. The Walk for Fostering Hope, Health, and Healing is a 5K walk or run. Bring strollers, bring nice dogs. Don't bring mean dogs. Bring nice dogs, and they'll get a treat. But it's walking in memory of those who've died by suicide with the hope of preventing more deaths. And you will find people there to talk to as well, because maybe you have a loved one that you're just worried sick about, but you're not sure what to do, and it's hard, or I hate to say that it's embarrassing because it's life or death, but for some people that's excruciating, right, Wendy?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I have to say that when Luke died by suicide, I was embarrassed at first, because I'm a social worker, and I thought, wow, I could have done something.
Oh,
I mean, I tried to do everything I could. Did. But
I could hug you right now, but I can't because we've got microphones.
But I forget where I was going with this. I was embarrassed at first, and then I thought, well, I did everything I could, and I know that this happens in families. My son wasn't a bad person. I'm not a bad person. But people really, I think that's why they don't want to talk about it. A lot of times, parents don't, because people are afraid that they're going to. They're afraid that people are going to judge them, and maybe they will. I don't know. I'm sure people judged me, but what can I do about that? Nothing. All I could do is, do the best that I could. And, it happens in every kind of family. I do not care who you are, where you live. It can happen in your family. And if you think it can't, believe me, I'm here to tell you, it can.
Wendy Charlebois with Zero Suicides. And just like this Associated Press article that I've been looking at that just came out, there's nothing like being with people who get it. And that is what this group is about, this growing group, and all of the affiliated, the collaboration, the groups that are coming together. I will probably never take my money anywhere but the Elko Federal Credit Union because of the investment they've made in our community recently. They also invested in Great Basin College mental health initiatives.
Oh, that's right.
Yes,
that's
yes.
right.
So I appreciate that board of directors, and that is a local credit union. And I'm just speaking in personally, and maybe it's out of turn, but those are the kinds of investments that make a difference. And so thank you.
And, we're so thankful that they partnered with us. And
they're normalizing this.
And if anybody else wants to partner with us, just let us know, because, and if anybody wants a training, call Zero Suicide Elko County. Just look us up on Facebook. You can call my number, 775-340-0268. We can get your company set up with a training. We can start off with Safe Talk, and 3 hours. It's a small piece of your life, just 3 hours. And then if you feel like you want to do more, we've got the assist training, which is 2 days. We're trying to get one scheduled for the city in November, an assist training. So there's just a lot of good stuff going on, and we also have our support group, which meets the second Monday of every month online. I could give you a bunch of phone numbers, but really just look us up on Facebook, which just Zero Suicide Elko County, or on our website.
And you'll find lots of great information, inspirational messages, and those community connections. Wendy, we could talk for another half an hour, but I probably should let you go. And we went over today, but we have to go over when it comes to these conversations. So
thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm sorry that we have to visit like this, but I love that you are helping us and doing this.
Well,
so
thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you. You're helping us too. Get the word out.
Thank you, listeners, for joining us for today's Elko Live program. Zero Suicides, Elko County. Wendy Charlebois, our guest today.